There was a time when television didn't always play it safe. Before media training, before PR handlers hovering just off camera, before every celebrity answer was carefully rehearsed and approved, there was a moment in TV history when something unpredictable could still happen, and that moment often happened behind one desk. Johnny Carson didn't just host a talk show. For 30 years, his desk became America's living room. Millions tuned in every night, expecting charm, jokes, and polished celebrity stories. Most guests delivered exactly that. But every once in a while, someone ignored the unspoken rules of Hollywood. They told the truth, not the comfortable kind. The kind that made audiences gasp, executives panic, and Carson himself momentarily lose control of the room. These were moments when the carefully constructed illusion of celebrity cracked wide open, revealing something raw, messy, and unforgettable. From 1962 to 1992, The Tonight Show wasn't just entertainment. It was a cultural mirror, and on rare nights, that mirror reflected truths Hollywood never intended to show. These are the stories of 6 guests who chose honesty over image management and changed television forever. What makes a Carson interview truly shocking? It wasn't profanity. .it wasn't scandal alone. .it was authenticity. A shocking Carson interview happened when a guest stopped performing and started confessing. When jokes gave way to discomfort. When the audience laughter turned nervous. When Johnny Carson, the smoothest host in television history, was forced to improvise damage control in real time. And no one shattered Hollywood's illusion quite like our first guest. 1. Bette Davis exposed Hollywood's sexism to Johnny's face. By 1983, Bette Davis had nothing left to prove. 2 Academy Awards, 10 nominations, a career spanning decades. She had already secured her place in film history, which meant she had something few people in Hollywood ever truly possess: freedom. When Davis sat across from Johnny Carson, cigarette in hand, she didn't arrive to charm or promote. She arrived to tell the truth. Getting old in Hollywood, she said flatly, you might as well be dead, especially if you're a woman. The audience laughed, but it was the kind of laughter people use when they recognize an uncomfortable truth. Carson, usually quick with humor, paused. This wasn't the conversation he'd prepared for. Hollywood worships youth and beauty, Davis continued, as if those things were achievements rather than accidents of time. Men aged into distinguished. Women aged into irrelevance. I've fought for every decent role since I turned 40, she said without bitterness, only exhaustion. The men get better parts. We get forgotten. What made the moment powerful wasn't anger. It was clarity. Davis wasn't complaining about her own career. She had already won. She was speaking for the women who hadn't. When Carson gently suggested that things had improved, Davis fixed him with a look that could freeze a room. Improved, she replied. That's like saying the Titanic improved because they added lifeboats after it sank. She didn't name names. She didn't need to. Her words landed like controlled explosions about studios that built her and then discarded her, about roles lost to younger actresses, about an industry that pretended women over 40 didn't exist. In 1983, conversations about sexism and ageism weren't mainstream. Davis was decades ahead of her time. She used her platform not to promote herself, but to expose a system she helped build, and one that no longer valued women like her. Carson recovered, the audience applauded, but the illusion had already cracked. And if Bette Davis made people uncomfortable, the next guest made America hold its breath. 2. Richard Pryor turned comedy into a confession. In 1980, Richard Pryor walked onto The Tonight Show carrying something heavier than jokes. Just weeks earlier, he had nearly died after setting himself on fire while freebasing cocaine. Publicists had surely prepared a sanitized version of events, a controlled narrative, a comeback story. Pryor ignored all of it. I wasn't trying to kill myself, he told Carson calmly. I was just trying to get high enough to touch God. Instead, I almost met him. The audience didn't laugh. This wasn't stand-up. This was a reckoning. This ain't a joke, Johnny, Pryor said, looking directly at him. Cocaine isn't recreational for me. It's suicide on the installment plan. Carson tried to steer the conversation back toward safer ground, upcoming projects, lighter topics, but Pryor refused the escape hatch. People ask why I did it, he continued. Try being black in America. Try having all the money in the world and still being treated like you don't belong. Success, Pryor admitted, didn't heal him. It only gave him better ways to numb the pain. He spoke openly about addiction, mental health, and racism, subjects rarely discussed so candidly on television, especially by a black male celebrity in 1980. There was no apology, no spin, no attempt to soften the truth. I'm done pretending, Pryor said. I've been making people laugh while I'm dying inside. Behind the scenes, network executives panicked. Edits were discussed, concerns raised. But Carson recognized something rare was happening, and he let it air. Pryor transformed a comedy appearance into a public therapy session. America listened, and television was never quite the same. 3. Shelley Winters exposed Hollywood's dirtiest secrets. In 1975, Shelley Winters didn't just tell stories. She brought evidence. Midway through what began as a routine interview about her memoir, Winters reached into her oversized purse and pulled out a worn bikini. Carson froze. This, she said, holding it up for the camera, is what I wore when I screen tested with Ronald Reagan. Before Carson could redirect the conversation, Winters launched into a blunt expose of Hollywood's casting couch culture. You want to know how young actresses really got parts? She asked. Let me tell you. Names were dropped, details shared, powerful men exposed. Winters described producers who propositioned actresses, studio offices with literal casting couches, and an unspoken system where talent was secondary to compliance. I was lucky, she said. I said no and still had a career. Most women weren't. Carson laughed nervously, attempting damage control. Shell, we might be getting into dangerous territory. Dangerous for whom? Winters fired back. These men were predators in expensive suits. Everyone knew. Everyone looked away. In 1975, women didn't publicly accuse powerful men, not without consequences. Winters spoke anyway. When she reached into her purse again and pulled out a list of names, Carson nearly jumped out of his chair. The audience gasped. Winters smiled. She didn't care about protecting Hollywood's secrets. She had lived them. Decades before the world was ready to hear it, Shelley Winters told the truth. For Oliver Reed drunkenly declared war on Hollywood. By 1987, Oliver Reed's reputation preceded him. When he stumbled onto Carson's set, visibly intoxicated, producers already knew they were in trouble. What followed was 7 minutes of chaos. Hollywood is run by cowards, Reed slurred, ignoring Carson's attempts to discuss his film. People who wouldn't recognize real acting if it punched them in the face. The audience laughed until they realized he wasn't joking. Reed dismissed modern films as garbage manufactured by accountants pretending to be artists. Directors were prostitutes. Studios were soulless. Talent had been replaced by market research. Carson tried to salvage the interview, mentioning Reed's past performances. Reed waved it off. Everything now is rubbish, she said. No one has the courage to say no to money. As uncomfortable as it was, there was a kernel of truth in his rant. Many viewers quietly agreed, even as they cringed. When Reed nearly toppled a prop and Carson cut to commercial early, the damage was done. Reed was never invited back. He didn't burn bridges. He exploded them. 5. Burt Reynolds broke Hollywood's biggest rule. In 1976, Burt Reynolds was America's golden boy. Charming, successful, universally liked, which is why his honesty stunned everyone. When Carson casually asked about working with co-stars, Reynolds leaned in. Some of the people you see me smiling with, he said, I'd love to punch in the throat. Nervous laughter followed. Reynolds continued, describing incompetent directors, entitled co-stars, and actors obsessed with their process. It's acting, he said. Learn your lines. Hit your mark. Stop acting like you're curing cancer. He didn't sound bitter. He sounded relieved. Hollywood's unspoken rule is simple. Never criticize your colleagues publicly. Reynolds broke it with a smile, and the curtain slipped. 6. Zsa Zsa Gabor owned her reputation completely. When Zsa Zsa Gabor appeared on the show in 1983, she brought champagne despite the rules. At 66, and on her 8th marriage, she could have defended herself. Instead, she leaned into the truth. I married for comfort, she said cheerfully. Love was optional. The audience erupted. I love their houses, she added, their jets, their bank accounts. No shame, no apology. Diamonds last longer than applause, darling, she said, sipping champagne as Carson stared in disbelief. Zsa wasn't confessing. She was owning it. And that, too, was honesty. Why these moments still matter. These interviews weren't just shocking. They were transformative. They expanded what could be said on television. They challenged sanitized celebrity culture. They reminded audiences that fame doesn't erase humanity. Today, interviews are controlled. Stories are approved. Surprises are rare. But once upon a time, honesty slipped through the cracks. And when it did, America couldn't look away. Because the truth, even uncomfortable truth, is still the most compelling television of all.